what's called marketplace facilitator laws. This is, I'm going to do a separate section on this, so it's some separate content, and it's a very facts and circumstances determination. This is applicable really more for like exchanges. And so the Web 2 equivalent would be something like eBay or Amazon, where there is a centralized, I hate to use the term market maker, but a marketplace facilitator, and they are facilitating the transactions. And so the analysis is really beginning for exchanges of, oh, and even some protocols, like, are they themselves marketplace facilitators? And the significance is, if they are, then they would have the obligation to determine the customer's, the buyer's location, to collect the information, and then to even collect the actual tax and remit on behalf of the seller. And so it's a very nuanced and, like I said, very fact and circumstances driven analysis. But I think it's going to become more prevalent as Web3 companies start to realize these potential implications. I mean, even in Web 2, a lot of times income tax, for whatever reason, takes priority over sales tax in companies' minds. And they're like, oh yeah, we probably need to look at sales tax or property tax, or and part of it might be that sales tax, and I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, is not a federal concept, right? In the US, this is a state by state and even locality by locality determination. So there's all these different laws to keep track of, and it can just be kind of overwhelming, I think.
Yeah, I see. When you were mentioning the marketplaces, I think like most areas or sites where people interact to exchange in Web3, they could be considered marketplaces because most of them are just smart contracts. Whether there is a UI, like an interface that it looks like a marketplace or not, is different. But everything is managed by smart contracts, which work as marketplace, where
Right.
they can do setting the price, the exchange of tokens,
Yes.
and the execution of the exchange itself. It's only through
Yes.
smart contracts, whether it has an interface or not an interface, right?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it reminds me of a good point. Like, when I looked at some of the marketplace facilitator laws for a couple of states, what they really focus on is what degree of input does the potential market facilitator have in terms of facilitating the sale. So are they communicating the offer and the terms and all of that? And to your point, with a smart contract, it's kind of integral for that. So it's going to be, I think, not to raise an alarm, but I think that there might be more companies that are subject to those laws than maybe anticipate. And then one other thing that I think is important that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, but when you're looking at sales tax, like, I have a client right now who's a payment processor, and you really need to look at it on two different layers, right? So there's a lot of people think of the layer that's like customers who are purchasing goods or services or crypto and or NFTs. Like, a lot of people are familiar with that application of sales tax. But a lot of people don't look at, for instance, businesses in Web3 that are considered SaaS companies. And so SaaS, software as a service or infrastructure as a service or whatever service, that revenue itself could also be subject to sales tax. And I don't know that a lot of even practitioners are thinking through those aspects yet. So, not to add to the tax and accounting burden that companies already have, but it is something to discuss with your tax and your accounting professional, and just keep on the radar. There's a couple levels to think